This is Newcap News with Nicole Stilger.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Well, the ball is officially rolling on the City of Lloydminster's Wastewater Treatment Plant project. Monday, City Council approved a funding application to the federal government to help cover the costs of the estimated $80 million upgrade. Adam McVicker with the latest.
We need the support of the federal and provincial governments.
And City Council has reached out for just that with an application to the New Building Canada Fund to support upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. The application would seek just over $50 million from the federal and provincial governments.
We need $80 million, folks. It doesn't come any easier than that. Where does that money come from? There's a program in place. We're trying to exercise that program. We're going to do whatever we can do to encourage their support.
The Provincial Territorial Infrastructure Component and Clean Water Wastewater Fund is worth $9 billion, with $1 billion set aside for communities with populations less than 100,000. The city unsuccessfully applied to the fund in 2015, which has some councillors feeling not so confident with the new application that includes minor changes.
The Prime Minister himself said that the bulk of the money is going to go to treated potable water, because there's so many people that don't have good drinking water, and wastewater would be second. So how that plays into the overall picture, I can't tell you.
The project is necessary to meet the Saskatchewan Water Security Agency guidelines.
I don't want to be held responsible for people down the river, and I think the governments have an obligation. We have to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant to meet federal and provincial regulatory requirements.
The deadline for the project is July 1st, but Mayor Albers says the city will be requesting an extension.
We will be requesting that in the next, I'll say, a month or so. I don't have a specific date that I'm going to be approaching the Minister of Environment and the Ministry of Environment in Saskatchewan.
Right now, the city is focusing on engineering for the project and are seeking submissions for tender. Adam McVicker, Newcap News.
It's a lesson in winter survival for members of the military at Four Wing Cold Lake. An annual training program is underway that teaches pilots and personnel useful skills if they were in an emergency situation. Here's more on exercise Frosted Flier. To survive outside in the winter may seem like a daunting task, but the Cold Lake Ground Search and Rescue Team is preparing people for that.
Go over certain skills that will be used in your first 72 hours of the survival period. These skills will include self-aid, first aid, fire, water, shelter, signals, and food.
Exercise Frosted Flier is a confidence builder. Should the need ever arise, it gives those who find themselves in emergency situations the training they need to live outdoors, starting with the construction of a shelter, built using the few materials you may have with you, the rest coming from the environment.
If a pilot by themselves or anybody else gets into a survival situation, this is a really efficient and easy to make shelter.
The GSAR students are learning to instruct this program to the pilots and aircrew, who will be challenged by having to stay outside for 72 hours.
The more I can learn here, the more I can pass on to students. I have had the benefit of having exposure to stuff like this before. That's the biggest thing, is the kind of the fear of the unknown.
It's very critical in the search and rescue world, that 72-hour period, because that's usually when most search and rescue operations come to conclusion.
This learning process strongly depends on the sharing of information. This year, an expert in the art of bushcraft and wilderness living skills was brought in. Morse Kohansky literally wrote the book on surviving outside in the boreal forest and was happy to share his knowledge.
It's nice to go where people idolize you and treat you like gold. I'm sort of arrogant enough to think that I'm very knowledgeable on all this sort of stuff. I've made my living using my tongue pretty heavily for the last 45 years.
The GSAR team equally grateful for the experience.
I read his book as a kid, so it's kind of amazing to have someone with that amount of knowledge to be able to pass on to the students. And just kind of talking to them on the side, it's pretty cool.
Even if they get one or two little pieces of information that they can take away and use, it's tools in the toolbox. So they're going to be able to use this stuff later.
Part of the exercise also includes learning how to build a signal fire, the goal being to generate a smoke signal big enough that a search plane could spot it. The challenging aspect of this, once you hear a rescue plane, you have 3 minutes before it's too late. Exercise Frosted Flier wraps up on. When it comes to your vehicle, you never know what kind of situations you may get into. And a car kit can always come in handy. But what should you have in your kit? Chantel Germo reports.
Flat tire, poor weather conditions, or even a car accident. In any of these cases, you never know how long it will take for help to arrive, regardless of being in the city or on the highway. Every car should have an emergency car kit or a few items to keep you safe.
It's always a really good idea to have yourself packed, like a to-go bag, whether it be, blankets, extra warm clothing, to have a change of clothes in case you do get stuck in the city and staying with family or friends. It's a good idea to have those kinds of things with you. Have a snack with you, have a little, granola bars or different things like that in case something like that does happen.
Chief of Lloydminster Rescue, Norm Namier, also adds to have water, a flashlight, booster cables, a charged cell phone, map, and with his experience in rescue, he highly emphasizes on having winter clothing.
The most common thing that people don't have is the proper attire, the proper winter clothing. Again, it goes, they're not traveling with boots, they have their runners on, or they have some people with their sandals.
And when it comes to the vehicle itself, the chief goes on to say to make sure your tires are inflated properly, have backup coolant or windshield washer fluid, and check all these items every 4 to 6 months.
That's the key thing. You have that kit on in your vehicle at all times, because you don't know, the weather changes pretty drastically in Alberta and Saskatchewan. As we found out on Thursday, it was not too bad, and all of a sudden the next time you look outside, you've got a full-blown blizzard, and you might be traveling right in the middle of that. So you're, at least with that kit, you're well prepared.
So the next time you plan for a lengthy drive, be sure to have all the equipment you need for any type of emergency. For Newcap News, I'm Chantel Germo.
And the #1 gun show in Western Canada returns to the border city this weekend. The Lloydminster Gun and Outdoor Sportsman show is in its 35th year and features a variety of vendors, but organizers anticipate a smaller crowd this year due to the economy.
Well, it has impacted the event last year, and we probably get a bit of that this year just due to the money that people spend is not as readily available as it has been in the past.
Even so, Davison says there will be over 100 vendors for people to browse through at the Service Sports Centre, and he stresses this event isn't just for gun lovers.
It's a wide variety of outdoor equipment, through clothing, through GPS, through a variety of items. So guns are a big thing here, absolutely, but there's a lot more to it than that.
There will also be a banquet the following weekend. Tickets can be bought at the doors on Saturday and Sunday. More information on the Lloydminster Gun and Outdoor Sportsman show can be found on the Lloyd Fish and Game website. Well, the Lloydminster Catholic School Division is taking steps to improve student learning using technology. In this week's Beyond the Classroom, we see what initiative is in place to facilitate that strategy. In the age of information, it's only a matter of time before technology becomes more prevalent in classrooms. Now, a pilot program implemented in the fall is putting a Chromebook in the hands of all the grade 7 students in the division. Theirs to use in school and at home, including Andrew Basaraba's class at Father Gorman.
We use it in all our subjects. There's so many different tools and resources out there for everything. The hardest part is just culling out the bad ones and finding the stuff that's really great for the kids.
The one-to-one initiative allows the teachers and students to interact more often and get more feedback. But there are added perks of going paperless.
If the teachers don't have to stand in line at the photocopier, or if the students don't bring wrinkled and torn and tattered sheets back for assessment, if the teachers can put comments and assessment on kids' assignments anytime, anywhere.
Like, we have lots of English language learners here, and the ability for them to keep up with content and tools for them to learn English, just as one example, is just a huge benefit for them.
For students like Raphael Bartolome, the Chromebooks are a welcome tool.
We don't have to be together to work in groups, and there are lots of things we can do more than on paper.
Kaler says they've started to collect data and the future of the program will hinge on those results. But he adds some people are concerned about the technology replacing the teacher.
I think if a teacher's only pedagogy is lecture-style content delivery, they might have to be worried a little bit. But for most teachers, technology isn't going to replace them. It's going to make them superheroes in the classroom.
As for Basaraba, he's happy with how his class is adapting.
The ability for them to learn how to use this technology in a constructive manner, a positive way, and be good 21st century learners. It's great.
This is Newcap Sports.
For every person familiar with Gordon Butch Blanchard, you'll find another who isn't. Gordon's name is synonymous with boxing in Lloydminster and Saskatchewan, and two men who are very close with Butch have worked hard to replicate what he brought to the people of the border city. Lance Phillips now with a preview of a special Newcap original airing Wednesday, January 25th.
Oh, it means everything to us. We all went to his funeral there a few months ago, and we started reminiscing about the times we had growing up boxing, and we just knew we had to do something like this to remember him.
He was a special person for sure. He was the most selfless person you ever met.
They're going to carry on the tradition, and they're going to help kids who are troubled in their youth.
I definitely was one of those kids. I found the boxing club, and it definitely steered me in the right direction.
I honestly think that Butch would be so proud that, you know, his legacy is being carried on. My brother decided, I'm going to drive to BC and pick up a boxing ring on the back of a U-Haul and bring it back to Lloyd.
It's definitely something that they've both been wanting to do for years on end, and now it's finally a reality.
We are going to train people, we're going to get people in shape.
I just see boxing as a good sport for me. I can't blame anybody else besides myself. It's pretty much all on me.
Whether you want to come here nightly, go home, never jump in that ring.
Build confidence and self-respect and respect in others.
If you want to fight, we are going to take kids on tournaments all over.
It would be just getting them in shape or getting them out on the road to see things that they might not have ever seen before.
And the 2017 portion of Lakeland College's volleyball season began this past weekend, and the women's squad entered their home court with a familiar face back in the lineup. Fifth-year libero Laura Popplestone was back on the court for the Rustlers, a welcome addition, with Lakeland hosting the ACAC Women's Volleyball Championships February 22nd to 25th. Popplestone left the team after her fourth year, but decided to return from Edmonton to play out the remainder of her eligibility.
There is something about playing elite volleyball and playing with these girls that you can't replace, and so I felt like when I went away I was missing it and it felt unfinished.
To be honest, it was like she basically didn't even leave, and she's just come in and went straight back into her same leadership role of doing what she does, and she's able to pass half the court as a libero, and it takes a long time and a lot of training to be able to get to that level that you can do that.
That type of ability provides a big upside for the team, but it also gives Popplestone the opportunity to pass on her wealth of knowledge and talents.
It's going to be great for our rookie libero to be able to learn from her, and they can work together, so that way when Laura's done here at the end of this year, that she'll be able to leave Olivia with a little bit of knowledge and hopefully as a better player.
If she can ultimately be better than me by the end of this year, that's what we're looking for. I'm going to be gone next year, so she needs to come and take over, and I want her to be better than me, because that's all you want, is for your team to be the best they can be.
I believe that our rookie libero can do a lot of the same things, but she just needs time to grow and get better and to make mistakes and to be able to come back and learn from that.